Welcome to The Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin.
Hi, this is Linda Thompson, your host for The Author Show. Imagine you are in the Army. You have been called overseas to serve in a war zone. Once your tour is up, you're expected to return home, pick up life where you left off a year or more ago. Can you do it? What are the challenges? That's only part of what author WayneSmalls talks about in his new book called To Be a Soldier. Wayne joins us today to talk about his memoir. Wayne, welcome to The Author Show.
Good morning, Linda, and thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a privilege to be here.
Wayne, please give us a short summary of Called to Be a Soldier.
Sure, Linda. Called to Be a Soldier is a book that I wrote about my experience in Afghanistan. It talks about some of the hard, tough decisions that I had to make while I was there, dealing with soldiers and family issues and all of the turmoil and all of the stress that comes along with being on the battlefield. I also had to think about getting my mission done and keeping my soldiers alive so that we could all return home.
Did you write your book with any particular type of reader in mind?
That's a great question, Linda. Initially, when I started writing the book, the purpose of the book was actually to be a journal just for myself, something that I would use to help me get through that time because I was going through a rough time myself. So in order for me to deal with it a little better, I decided to just keep a journal. And then as the deployment progressed and certain things were happening, I figured that I could account for all of these things, and it just kind of evolved into a book. And I thought that anyone who had a relative that was either serving in the military or a family member who had a spouse or a child that was serving in the military, anyone that was either directly or indirectly related to the military could actually relate to my story.
Was it difficult to share such an intimate story with the world?
No, interestingly enough, it was really easy for me to share that story. I feel that it's important for everyone to know exactly what being in a combat zone is really like. I think that sometimes we tend to get the watered down version of what goes on overseas and in these war zones, and I felt really comfortable sharing my story. I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
If you were writing an article about Called to Be a Soldier, what would the headline be?
I think I would call it something like The Real Deal About Being on the Battlefield.
From the preview I read, you have a very easygoing style of writing. Is there any other author you feel may have influenced that writing style?
I would have to say no. I don't know very many authors that I would even say I emulate or try to emulate. I think I have my own writing style. In fact, I think I go out of my way to just be myself and write only as myself. I don't really try to write in anyone else's style.
How did your family react to your being called overseas to a war zone?
They did not like it at all. As a matter of fact, I volunteered to go. I was placed into a very difficult position and I had to make a decision, and that decision ended up being me going to Afghanistan, and I accepted that mission, but my family was not happy about it at all. And then of course, eventually they supported me, but they didn't like it.
You left the military after 22 plus years of service. What influenced the decision to leave, and what are you doing now?
Well, I decided to retire from the Army basically because I was ready to move on to the next chapter of my life. I had given the Army more than half of my lifetime, and I just felt like I had another purpose, and I wanted to explore that purpose and see what it is that was meant for me to do. And as of right now, I am working on my doctorate degree in business administration with a specialization in leadership. I'm also pursuing my writing career as well as doing motivational speaking.
Was it difficult to assimilate into what we non-military people would call the real world after you retired?
Yes and no, Linda. I would have to say it was very difficult in the sense that all I really knew was the military life. So transitioning into the civilian world was a tough transition because I never had to rely on anyone else other than my military family. Things are different, handled differently in the civilian world. And being a career military guy, you just get used to certain things and having things done a certain way. And so that part of it was a little stressing. And then the fact that I was ready to retire, I was ready to move on with my life, I think helped made that transition a little better. And like I said, I was really ready to get into something else that I felt like I would be able to use my talents to help other people and to be of assistance in areas where I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if I had continued in the military.
You mentioned writing. Will there be more books coming from you?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I'm writing another book right now, and I'm working on some articles. I've published several articles that have been published on some websites, and I'm just doing as much as I can to improve in my craft of writing and just become a better writer. And I want to also develop my speaking business, so I'm just doing all that I can to get those things going and build momentum.
Wayne, authors usually write because they have a message they want to share. What is your message in Called to Be a Soldier?
My message in Call to Be a Soldier is no matter what type of stressful situation you have to deal with, whether it's in a combat zone or whether it's in the streets of Fayetteville, North Carolina, or anywhere in the USA, you can get through that tough time. All you need is determination and to make up your mind to never quit, and you can succeed at whatever it is you want to do.
Can you think of any other book that might be compared with Called to Be a Soldier?
If I had to think of a book that was comparable, I would say The American Sniper sort of parallels my book in a lot of ways.
What kind of feedback have you had from readers of your book so far?
I've had a lot of positive feedback from readers who really appreciated me telling my story, and they say that it gives them a better appreciation for what soldiers really have to deal with, especially in the combat zone and dealing with all of that, all of the issues there, not to mention the fact that you left your family behind and then you have to deal with all of the issues that go with combat. So the feedback is always positive, and people have thanked me for sharing my story with them, and that's what I want to hear.
Where can we learn more about you, about your work, and where can we purchase Called to Be a Soldier?
You can find me on my website at lwaynesmalls.com. That's LWAYNESMALLS.com. You can go on my website. I have a biography on there, and I have some other information that people may find useful. You can also purchase my book on my website, or you could go to Amazon.com and purchase the book. It's on Amazon.com in all three forms: hardback, softback, and e-copy. I'm also on Twitter at LWayneSmalls, and you can find me on Facebook at WayneSmalls.
Wayne, you shared a book with us today that I believe has opened a lot of eyes. I think that you've got a great story. There are so many people that have no idea what happens when someone comes back from the war zones and tries to assimilate into society. Thank you for speaking with us about your story in Called to Be a Soldier. And when you release your next book, will you join us again?
Oh, absolutely, Linda, absolutely.
Called to Be a Soldier is an eye-opening memoir about a soldier who shares his thoughts from before, during, and after his tour in Afghanistan. It is heartfelt, shocking, and yet ultimately uplifting. Wayne is one of thousands who has served in combat, but one of a very few who have shared his story in a book. From reviews I've read, Called to Be a Soldier could be a great gift for a spouse or a parent of a soldier, or from a former soldier struggling to get his life back. This is Linda Thompson, concluding another edition of The Author Show. Please share this interview with your family and friends so that they too may have the opportunity to discover our guest and his work. And why not spread the word on social media as well? Please join us next time for another exciting author and another great book on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-55-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com, theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.